people call the cosmos. And the three faces of the one are Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. So Shiva represents destruction, Brahma represents creation, and Vishnu represents sustenance. And you can't really have anything without the other. So I feel like in modern times and in modern society, destruction is really something that is feared, that is seen as negative. And it is indeed terrifying when you're in the center of it. But there is no space for new without destruction of the old. So where are we today? The way I visualize where we are today with what's going on in the world is we're at kind of the cross between creation on the one hand and destruction on the other. Actually Eckhart Tolle in an interview a long time ago was asked, whether things in the world are getting better or whether they're getting worse. And he answered both. They're getting better and worse at the same time. So there's a lot of new things that are happening, but there's also a lot of old things that are coming to pass. So I wanted to just share a little bit about the idea of the cosmic hologram. So in the Indian system, in the Indian cosmology, basically all manifest reality. So all of creation, everything that is physical, that exists in the cosmos, is basically a projection of consciousness, okay? And I think somebody's not on mute and it's just distracting me a little bit. Sorry, thank you. So all reality is the projection of consciousness, okay? And you can actually understand the small from the big and the big from the small. So Buddha, for example, had an insight about the middle way, the path that he used, which was the path of balance, by watching a violin. He saw that when the violin strings were too tight, they would break. And if they were too loose, they couldn't play a note. And from there, he understood the concept and the law of balance. So he gained a huge insight about consciousness from a very small thing. So if we see that right now, the world is in a time of both creation and destruction, you could say it's at the top of the inhale, maybe before the exhale, or at the bottom of the exhale before the inhale. Then you could take what is happening in the world and then apply that is happening to each of us as individual manifestations of the larger cosmos. So I believe we're in a time of no thingness. So you might feel, you can actually see, especially with this pandemic that we're all, experiencing, we know that an old way of doing things is really dying. We're having revolutions and protests and changes all across the world. But yet something new has not yet been born. We don't know what's coming. We're in a very uncertain time. There's no way of planning because we don't know what to plan for. So we're in a time where something is past, but something new is not yet born. And we can also say that that can also be applied as a concept to ourselves. I also wanted to take the beautiful idea of the time of Elul. So Elul is I think it's a month in the Jewish system. And they say it's the time when God is walking in the fields. And when you start to listen to certain stories, you start to see that there is, with the quiet that came with this period, there also came a greater access to what we call source, force, creator, Lord, cosmos. And it's really incredible because I personally have been finding, and many people have told me the same thing, that we have a greater access to this source energy at the moment. So I don't think it's a month, I think it's a period. And I think that it's really appropriate to use this time to access this source energy. So I want to share with you now a little bit of the process that you can use. So just to sum up a little bit about the introduction, I think I'd like to share that I feel we're in a time of transformation, transformation of the world, transformation of human society, transformation of life as we know it, and transformation of us as individuals. And it's a calling for us to transform in this time. If you notice, if we go back to the cycle of transformation, a lot of things are being destroyed. A lot of people are losing jobs. A lot of people are closing businesses. A lot of people are being forced to let go of certain things. And therefore, we have to transform. We are being called to transform, to create at this time. So I want to share with you the process that I've been using, which I've tried to organize. And I've also tried to reference certain teachers, but I'm also happy to share other teachers who I've been, learning from at the moment. So the first thing is to start by asking a deep question. Start by asking a powerful question. Okay. Yeah. Now, what is a deep question? A deep question is not, should I go to the shops? A deep question is a question that has deep meaning for you. A deep question is a question about your purpose in the world, your next steps, whatever is really, sitting with you at the moment, where you feel stuck, where you feel lost, where you feel uncertain. Ask that question, close your eyes, take a few breaths, calm the mind, and then just put it out there. So I don't know if I'm speaking to people who are atheists, agnostics, spiritual or not. So I'm just going to use a bunch of different phrases so that everybody's comfortable with the terms that I'm going to share. So put the question out there. Michael Bernard Beckwith is a really great teacher, and he talks about two different modes of creating. The first mode he talks about is visualization. So visualization is where you say, okay, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And then you kind of close your eyes and you feel like you already have them. You use the law of attraction to manifest those. But visioning is the next level of consciousness in creation. Visioning is where you say to the source, the force, God, you say, what is your vision for my life? What is your idea of my life? What is my true purpose? And the powerful thing about visioning and asking these deep questions is when you visualize, you can only visualize what you already have in your mind or in the concepts that you have. But when you use visioning, you are now going beyond your own thought, your own concept. So there are futures that you don't even know about, you can't even imagine, that you could begin to create when you start with visioning, when you ask a question rather than put out your own desires. But either way, even your own desires, even if you start from there and continue to ask questions from there, you will also get to the same space. Let's go to the next slide. So the next is, the next step is to use meditation, to wait, to look and listen for answers. You will see signs, you will come across a book, you will have a conversation with somebody, you will you will get to see and hear answers coming to you. You might have an insight, and you might have a dream. It can come in many different ways, okay? But wait and listen, it will come. Answers to your question will come. Keep asking and keep listening, keep looking out for those answers. The third is to start to find your inner navigation system. So we've been schooled to kind of make our lives, to grasp opportunities, to push our way into the world, to create with the sheer power of our will. But this process that I'm sharing, which is a process of surrender, is using a very different technique. It's using a yin technique. It is to use your inner guide. So how do you start to find your inner guide? You basically follow your joy. Follow the things that give you great happiness, that make you excited, that make you smile. Follow what energizes you. Oftentimes, there are things that we do in our lives and our work and our jobs that really drain us. We come home at the end of the day and we're tired. But there are things, if you remember when you were a child, or I mean, maybe even you have these recent experiences, there are things when you do them, when you finish doing them, you're more energized than when you started. You're not tired. You feel like you could do them all the time. Follow those things. Third is, do what you feel like. Don't do what you think you should do. So in every moment, you feel something, and feeling is in the body. Feeling is not from the mind. Thinking is from the mind. Feeling is through the body. So you might think you have to, write a paper, but what you really feel like doing is having a cup of tea and sitting outside. Follow your feeling. Follow the feeling, because the feeling is the inner guide. It's going to take you. That cup of coffee could come with an inspiration, which could be followed by a meeting, which could be followed by a conversation. There's so many things. So follow your feeling and do what you feel like, not what you should. So ask your body, what do I feel now? Don't listen to your mind. Your mind often, is telling you what you think you should, what your ideas of you being should, and it's a bunch of mental concepts. The fifth is search and you will find. So if you're interested in the idea of, for example, surrender, Google it, go to the library, talk to people about it, search, and you will find the right tools will come to you, the right texts will come to you, the right wisdom will come to you, the right message will come to you through people, through things, through places, through times, and through different spaces. The next step that you have to use, you have to trust. So when you're using this process, the process of surrender, you have to be what the tarot called the fool. In the tarot system, there's a very powerful card. I'm going to hold it up to my camera. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Here it is, here. Okay. This is the card of the fool. The fool acts, as you can see, he's hanging off the edge of a cliff and he's holding, a rose in his hand. He is completely surrendering. He's trusting that as he walks off the cliff, he's going to be fine. And he's holding the flower of what they call innocence. Innocence is the ability to be in the moment, not in the mind. And he's stepping off the cliff and he has full trust in the universe. So when you are practicing surrender or flow, when you want to enter the stream, you really have to trust. And you have to trust that what you feel you should do may not make sense to you. It may not make sense to others, but trust that it is right. Trust that it right. There are things you do in this world that don't make sense, but they have powerful opportunities in their wake. And the second thing I do is I ask for signs. This helps, asking for signs helps to build trust, because often you're thinking, this is really ridiculous. You know, I'm doing something that just doesn't make any sense. So, and you have a difficult time trusting. So when you have a difficult time trusting, then ask for a sign, and then again, look out for them. I mean, it's amazing how things will come to indicate, you know, this decision was actually right. When you ask, you will receive. The next step, once you've begun this, is to let go. If you want to surrender and enter the stream, the flow of life, then you have to let go of who you think you are, because who you really are is outside of your mental concept. You have to let go of things that de-energize you, because those are blocking and preventing you from entering into something greater. And you have to let go of stories about why you can't let go. That's the hardest one. And that's why you have friends who can tell you that's bullshit. They can call, sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to swear. They can call you out and they can say, no, 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 that's just a story. You're holding on to this because you're afraid to let go. So talk to your friends about letting go. Next, you have to allow. This is also a very, you know, these are all difficult practices because we've not been taught to be this way. We've been taught to be a completely different way. We've been taught to do. We've not been taught to be. In fact, we've been de-taught, uneducated, diseducated in how to be, how to allow. So the key to allowing, so it's so funny because a lot of teachers will say, allow, allow. And you're like, oh, how do I allow? So I'm gonna give you some practical tips. The first is you have to try to be non-attached. You can't, non-attached does not mean detached. Detached means disengaged. Non-attached, you can be fully engaged, but you're not desperately wishing and hoping and holding on to the idea of something happening. You are not anticipating. You don't worry about what's going to happen. You just focus on what you're doing on that moment. So non-attached to outcomes, non-attached to rewards, don't have expectations. Just see with an innocent mind where you're gonna go. Second is to be open. Be open to things that come to you, even if they seem silly or ridiculous. Try. Openness will take you to the tools and to the opportunities that life wants to unfold for you. So try things that you might not try otherwise. Third, you have to be part of the flow, and part of the flow is giving and receiving freely. When you enter the stream is a beautiful metaphor for the flow of life, because the stream is basically moving water, and moving water is giving and receiving freely of itself. It's constantly renewing itself. So don't hold on to things. If people ask you for something and you feel, just let it openly give. Don't give holding on. And also be open to receive. If somebody wants to give you something, welcome it and say thank you. Don't resist that either. So when you're allowing, basically you're trying to get rid of all resistance. Surrender consciously. So now we reach the moment of surrender. So the moment of surrender, it's a very scary moment. You are now basically letting go of everything you thought you were, you wanted, you should do, and you're allowing life to take you somewhere. And so how do you surrender consciously? When you enter the stream, you're not falling in it. If you fall in it, you're going to have a hard time breathing. You're going to come up for air. You're going to hold on to boulders. You're going to try to get out. You want to enter the stream consciously. You want to surrender consciously. So you want to live moment to moment, which means at each moment, ask yourself, what do I want to do in this moment? What do I feel this, to be in this moment. Don't worry about the moment that's coming. When you get to that moment, you will have the wisdom for that moment. You were created. The universe has, the cosmos has so much order. Physicists will tell you this. Physicists will tell you how perfect creation is, how the chances of life on Earth, for example, are 1 in a gazillion. So the order is actually highly, highly intelligent. Know that this moment was created and you were ready for the moment, and you were created for this moment. And all you were created for was for this moment. So you are perfectly equipped for each moment. When the mind takes you forward, that's when you start to lose your consciousness. You can no longer be in the flow. Second is act from non-fear, or don't act. So this is something I'm really learning a lot with a young child, you know. So many of our actions are based on fear. I'm going to get my baby to sleep so that he doesn't cry later. Fear. Worry about a repercussion. I'm going to pack this away so it doesn't get damaged. Fear. I'm going to call this person so they're not mad at me. Fear. So whenever you're doing something, just ask yourself, am I acting from a space of fear? If you are, if there's something that's worrying you, just wait. Wait until the fear subsides. There's techniques to allow fear to subside. One technique is to allow the breath to just, allow the breath to go as it wants to. So sometimes your breath will go very fast when you're in a state of fear. Allow it to. The emotion will pass. The second is to relax the body. The third is to use deep. There's many ways of getting over fear. We can talk, that's a whole lecture in itself. But don't act from fear. If you want to be in a moment, you cannot act from fear. Once the fear has passed, then you can act. Third, know that every act has meaning and value. Every act, from making a cup of tea to going for a job interview, they all have meaning and value, because you cannot understand the far repercussions of each action. I just give you an example. I mean, when I started to use this process, I also have a kind of job, and it's seems to be important, dealing with important issues, and there's a lot of things that are happening at the moment that seem to be very, very important. But I started following what I feel and not what I should be doing, and I started doing less and less of certain things. And a friend of mine called me to go and pick up something she'd kept aside for my son. And I got ready, and I got myself into a really good mood. I did some yoga, and I went out, and I was feeling really like this was an important act. Just go and meet a friend and pick up something. That conversation actually was the beginning of the generation of this talk, because I was really like stuck for so long, for weeks, on what I should share. And when I had this conversation with this friend, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I should share. So every act has meaning and value. So when you're living moment to moment, you're not prioritizing. You are recognizing that every moment is going to take you to the next and the next and the next. And actually everything that has got you here so far has been the big moments, so-called big and so-called small. The fourth is, when you surrender, you have to accept all situations and circumstances without judgment. This is again because you don't understand the repercussions of your actions. There was this story, it's a very long story about, it's a Buddhist story about a man who has various different things happen to him, good things happen to him, so-called good things, and everybody congratulates him. And his answer is always, we shall see. And when bad things happen to him, everybody commiserates with him. And his answer to them is, we shall see. Because one good thing leads to one bad thing, and one bad thing leads to one good thing, and one good thing leads to one bad thing. And you cannot tell. At the end of the day, there is no good and bad. There is only experience. And some experience creates growth and is challenging, and some experience gives you relief and joy, and they're just different. But when you start not to judge situations and circumstances, you start to see opportunities in everything. You start to see how life is trying to unfold for you. You're just been resisting it all this time. No, I shouldn't do this. No, this is not right. No, this doesn't make sense. So when you accept every situation and you accept, so accepting situations is sometimes also accepting endings, accepting what we call failure. And I want to share this. This is a personal insight which I've learned in the last 2 weeks. Failure is simply a different outcome than what we intended. Failure is nothing but a different outcome than what we wanted. Failure is not bad or good. It is simply change. And things are changing all the time. So that's the last step of surrendering consciously. What's the outcome of all of this? Well, the outcome of all of this is pure creativity, pure creativity. When you enter the stream, basically the source and the force of all manifest and unmanifest, all of life, is pure creation. That's why they call it the creator. And you become pure creativity. Everything you do is creativity. And what is creativity? I'd like to quote Khalil Gibran, who said, "It is to charge all things you fashion with a breath of your own spirit." Pure creativity is your expression into this world. You're manifesting things and expressing through your own beautiful soul reality. And with this creativity comes energy. You become more energetic. You build more energy. You become energized. You get more energy, you become more energized. You get more energy, it's a cycle. It's almost like fire. Fire starts burning. The third is you create abundance. Abundance is the waterfall of the stream. Abundance is unlimited flow, unlimited. There's no such thing as scarcity when you have abundance. And abundance is spiritual, mental, physical. It's all. Finally, what does the waterfall do? The waterfall it's flowing so much that there's unlimited for others to receive. What happens when you enter the stream is you start to share. And when you start to share, contrary to physical law, spiritual law means when you share, you create more and more and more and more. So with something very small, you can create more and more and more and more. Take the story of Jesus, was it the fish? Was he sharing the fish? I think it was fish. There was a story where there was a gathering. Please forgive my poor theology. And he was sharing out fish or bread, some food, and he only had a little bit, and more people started coming, and the food just expanded and expanded and expanded. This is a metaphor for creativity. This is a metaphor for abundance. This is not a physical story, in my opinion. Maybe it is, but I would like to use it as a spiritual metaphor. The more you give of yourself, the more you create for others around you and for yourself. So what happens in the stream, and what does this living allow you to do? It allows you to live with ease. When you're using this process of surrender, you're not fighting, you're not struggling, you're not pushing, you're not demanding, you're not begging, you're not asking. You're simply allowing life to unfold for you. And that is a space of pure ease. You're not doing what you think you should. You're doing what you feel like. You're not doing 2 hours of yoga because you think you should. You're doing 10 minutes if you want. You're doing what you feel. That is ease. And ease is grace. The second thing that has happened, which I've noticed, is you live with peace. When you live moment to moment, and when you live and when you act from a space of no fear, what you start to realize is you don't have any regret. So whenever I have realized that I'm acting from a space of fear, and I give myself time to get conscious, and then I act, I never have regret. I never have regret. So I live in peace. A lot of my peace is disturbed because I think we shouldn't have done this. We didn't do this right. This could have been wrong. This is, and so and so and so on. It's our mental chatter. But when we enter the stream, we live with peace. And the third thing you start to do is you live with joy, because you're doing the things that you love to do. You're following your joy. Everything becomes a celebration spontaneously. You know, people start to come into your life and things start to happen to you, and everything starts to be joyful and celebratory without any effort from your part. So what are the tools that you can use on this journey of surrender? The most powerful is meditation. And you can use lots of different meditation techniques. If it's dance, if it's breath work, if it's vipassana, if it's visualization, whatever works for you, use it. Prayer. And prayer is simply speaking out to the cosmos, to the divine matrix, to the ether. So it's just communicating, because meditation is listening. Prayer is communicating. So you can communicate, you can ask for signs, you can ask questions, you can ask for guidance at any time. You can use breathing. Breathing is a powerful meditative practice. Physical movement is really, really important. It helps to shift your energy. It helps to get things that are stuck unstuck. It helps to change your state. And the fifth is, of course, nature. Being in nature, communing with nature. Being with nature. Sorry, excuse me, 1 second. Communing with nature it also helps to get our spirit, get our spirit flowing again. So, things to remember in this practice. This is not a linear practice. It's not that you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you don't go back. No, it's a process of flow. So you're constantly doing this. It's not that you're gonna ask a question maybe only once. You can ask questions over the whole process. It's not that you're waiting, looking and listening once. You have to listen and for the guidance all the time. It's not that you're using your inner navigation at one stage. No, you have to practice that all the time. Trust, letting go, allowing, all of these things you have to be doing in your own flow, because each of us are unique creations. Therefore, we're going to have a unique path. There's no two breaths that have been the same in anybody's life in the history of humans. There's no two leaf on a tree in the history of plants that has been the same. So each of us is going to walk our own unique path. So we have to follow this as well. And the other thing is practice when you can. Yes, there are certain things that we may have to do, depending on how far you want to take this practice. But some of us may be more comfortable, you know, we have certain things that we feel we need to do and we don't want to give those up, and that's fine. So practice whenever you can. Live moment to moment whenever you can. Meditate whenever you can. Believe me, once you start, it will take you in a certain direction that you'll start to walk this way all the time. Even when there are things that you quote unquote have to do, you'll be in the moment with them. Ask whenever you're stuck. The fifth is something really, really important, and I've struggled with this. Spiritual work is work. Meditating is work. It's not leisure. If you want to enter the stream, you have to build your consciousness. You have to allow your consciousness to expand. You have to allow yourself to grow. And spiritual practice is the way you do that. So don't think, oh, I don't have time for this because that's more important. No, don't think of it as I'm lazing around when I'm lying in bed meditating, or when I'm praying, or when I'm doing a little bit of yoga or whatever, or when I'm going for a walk. This is all really, really, this is the key. So the idea of surrender is that you become so conscious, so sure of your destiny, that you can walk into the water and allow life to take you there. You don't need to swim. Oh, you can swim in certain moments, but most of the time you're flowing with the water. As Bruce Lee said, he said, be like water. The stream of life, of consciousness, when you enter it, things become effortless and opportunities come to you in crazy fashions, and everything is joyous. When work becomes joy, and joy is basically how you work. So I think I'd like to thank you all for being here. Thank yourselves for bringing you here, whatever you might have gained. And I'll hand back over to Salim, and I'm not sure if there's time for questions and so on.
Thank you so much, Neha. Really, really beautiful presentation. Appreciate it so much. So many connections with themes that have come up in the Sanghas and conversations that I think everyone here has been having. So I see that. I would love to open it up to, to the community. Me and Francisco always have kind of questions and ideas. But yeah, if there's anything that came up for anyone, any reflections, any, acknowledgements are good. So feel free. Yeah, sometimes we raise hands. We have a lot of people on. That's helpful. If not, you can just unmute for the folks who don't have video. Is there anyone with any questions or reflections? Linda Key.
Thanks, Aline. Can everyone hear me? Neha, thank you so much. That presentation was so beautiful and resonated with me on so many levels. My question, however you choose to answer this, is more about yourself. My background is in storytelling and writing and acting, so most people that get to know me, I ask them a lot of questions about their life. And so my question is, what brought you to starting to develop this type of work that you've presented us with today?
My whole life brought me right here. I think
was there like a moment where it started to like, sorry, go ahead, you were gonna answer.
Go ahead. Was there a moment about surrender in particular, this kind of way of life, or is that what you're interested in?
Yeah, I think maybe, of course, I mean, your answer, you already answered it, is that, life experiences brought you to this place. So I guess, is there a moment that stands out? We talk a lot about moments and being in the moment, and maintaining that kind of, Francisco mentioned in the chat, like that innocence, and it reminds me of, and you mentioned of like that childlike innocence. And so was there a moment or a few that stand out more for you in your life that maybe helped urge you to continue the work? As we all know that the work can be, we might have moments where we want to give up doing the work. So were there moments where you felt like, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do the work to enter into the stream and then the flow?
So actually, as you were speaking, it's not so much one moment, but basically I've been, for the last 15 years, I've been proving myself to people who are not even alive anymore. And I've been kind of slaving and pushing myself to show that I can do this, that I will be a success, kind of thing, driven by a fear of failure, like a lot of us. And I have been pushing and persevering and struggling, and I can't tell you, I mean, I've done a lot of things that have required huge amounts of will and determination and perseverance under, you know, in crazy situations. So those are too many stories just to tell. And I think, you know, I took maternity leave from my organization, and I was, you know, I'm the director of an organization. It's a very small one. It's a lot of pressure well, actually, a lot of my jobs have had a lot of pressure, but and when I took maternity leave, I took quite a lot of time, and then coronavirus happened. So I didn't go really back to work. I've been home a lot of times, and I started to do things I like, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm tired. I am tired. I don't want to do it. I don't want to push and struggle and scrape and claw my way in. I just want to surrender. And I don't know, you know, things many different things led. I've had many different insights, but like, I think this time in particular, I have really intuited this process in some way, like I said, because I think it's a time of Elil. So I think it's where we can really access, you know, a wisdom, consciousness, and source energy to figure these things out for ourselves, to transform.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, is there anyone else who has any questions or feedback for Neha? No? So I think from some of the things, Neha, that stood out for me anyway, that came up, you talked about ease, like entering with ease, and that word and idea has been coming up a lot. Jen 9 led something here and kind of had that as a theme for her workshop, and we've just been discussing that. Part of it has been, for me, has been letting go of struggle mentality, you know, that's like intergenerational, and identifying that way. So it's kind of, like you said, detaching from the created identity and connecting more with the source, I think you were saying. So I appreciate that and those kind of connections that I've seen. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful presentation. Yeah.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you all for being here. If there are more voices, we love to hear you guys. Don't be shy. Step up. We're in community. It's all right.
I just want to say thank you. I enjoy everything. I took great notes, and so I'm just kind of letting it resonate instead of talking about, just like absorb it. But thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Hi, yeah, this is Carrie, and I just wanted to practicing surrendering is something I've been working on for a while, but I don't really have any resources to educate myself on surrendering. Do you have any specific resources that would be helpful to continue to explore?
Again, I would say just go and do a search. I can definitely recommend, there's, you know, Michael Bernard Beckwith speaks a lot about surrendering in his, you know, you can look him up on YouTube and just Google him envisioning. There's a book called The Surrender Experiment, which I'm reading right now, which is about a guy in the 70s who took it really far out. It's very cool. His name is Michael Singer. But also I would say, yeah, like really just look, be open, because what's going to resonate with you and what's going to be important to inform you and educate you and help you in your journey is going to be different than what might be for me or for others.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Francisco, did you have anything you wanted to share before we close out? Or we have more questions, we don't need to push. I mean, it's good to leave some space because there might be some questions out there and sometimes people need time. Zoom is an interesting way to interact in that respect. We're more, in my experience, it's harder to connect, and that's what's so beautiful about sharing the ideas, you know, and the expression. You know, somehow that connects all the way across. So Neha, really, really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just shared the book that Neha referenced by Michael Singer on the chat.
Great.
And then one thing that I've found very personally is like the next day after the Sangha in the evening, you know, my time in the Pacific, I will sit down and listen to the Sangha again.
Francisco listens to them twice.
Yeah, because in the moment, also like in the moment, I'm not 100% present. I know we're talking about being present because I'm like making sure, I want to make sure everything is nice for everyone and respond.
Sure.
Like I just posted the book there, you know, so I'm going into a different website to search, etc. But
Yeah.
I found that the next day is really nice for me to listen, and I really appreciate. I can tell that I'm going to be pausing a lot when I listen the next time, when I listen to it on the YouTube channel. So thank you, Neha, and I'm very excited to have more opportunities to collaborate in the philosophy aspect of the synergy trainings. You know.
Yeah.
So thank you, Salim, for bringing Neha to the circle.
Of course.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I'll share, one of the things I appreciated today as well, Neha, was how you referenced different thinkers, and like it really helped me connect in different ways. You know, the way that you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was really beautiful, and also it shows the connectedness of things across cultures and thought and, you know, and countries, you know, so the same ideas express themselves differently in different places. And I feel like when you spoke, that became very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to combine, you know, reggae music with Gnostic gospels, etc., etc. Yeah.
Me too. So I get it. I feel it.
I just want to, can I add something, Neha? Firstly, a wonderful, wonderful experience. I'm sorry I joined late. I was on the old link. And then secondly, one thing that came up for me is everything that you've shared, Neha, is 100% how I try to live my life. However, I also just want to bring to the group that nothing is linear, yeah? So we're still gonna have the ups and downs of life. And the way I've experienced it is to even accept that, to accept the fact that we can't always be in a let go. We can't always be in a surrender. We can't always be in a space of joy, and to be okay with that. And I guess that's my only extras I would like to add to it. But fantastic, Neha. Really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks, Marcel. Thanks. You're so right. Yeah, you're so right. Accept even when you're not surrendering. You're right.
Yeah, I like that reference to what Marcel communicated, Neha, what you said earlier regarding that teacher that people were saying something about the joy that was happening. And he's like, well, we'll see what comes next, you know, or something to that matter. You know, I think what Marcel said kind of referenced that. So thank you for echoing it again, Marcel.
Can I speak? My name is Emily.
Welcome,
do you hear
Emily.
Me?
Yeah.
Hi, and thank you. I'm up in Sweden, and I was a little bit in and out because I had to cook after teaching a class, but I was listening and I took notes of all the beautiful stuff you presented. So I just want to say thank you. I'm really joyful for you sharing that in a very beautiful, structured way. And because I'm kind of living with these things always sometimes in front of my mind, sometimes in the back of my mind. And it's not a linear thing and all of that. And you move back and forth into different kind of states, and it's all spiraling and expanding, but still the way you put it all together, I'm really impressed, girl. Thank you for doing that. And I'm gonna use these things like to look at, you know. So it's I'm just impressed and grateful, and I'm sending love to all of you participating today. And that's what I had in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Lovely. Emily's an active part of the community, Synergy community. Good to see you. Welcome, everyone. What a beautiful group. People from all over here. Amazing. Do we have any other questions from the community?
Yeah, I think, you know, as far as like the current times, you know, I think the conversation and the presentation that you gave today is really wonderful tools for us to kind of deal and with a lot of change that's taking place, especially like if we're not personally going through some struggle, we definitely know someone that is, you know, and I think is just being empathetic kind of lovers and really trying to be of support to our community. It's you know, it brings up a lot of tools, I think, you know, this presentation, to be able to give us more groundedness in being able to lift our people up and lift each other and lift ourselves up. You know, so I think that right now for these current times, I think that, you know, this presentation is really nice because it helps us to find a little breath and a little pause and give us some really positive tools. And I think that's one of the things that we're looking for these sanghas to do today is, you know, we do this every Sunday, is to give us more space for empowerment and groundedness and more communal tools to rise together and more community. So I really appreciate you, Neha, and thank you everyone for chiming in today. If you have questions and you're bashful, you can always put them into the chat. I shared the link where we'll be sharing the video of today's presentation on the chat as well. Pretty early on the chat, I put that up. If you want to scroll way up, you'll find it. And yeah, we also have like this is a you know, this is a complimentary event that we host every Sunday. If you wish to donate to us, Celine put the chat into that. And we have daily yoga classes as well. Want to kind of like drop that in for you guys. The intention of, we literally started this whole thing during when COVID started. We started this for the purpose of being space for meditation and yoga and self-care. So it's pretty valiant to start something in the middle of a little chaotic, and but somehow we felt really grounded in starting it. Some people would call us the fool, you know, out there on the limb with, you know, I don't know if he had his heart on his hand, I forget what it was. The rose, yeah. But I appreciate being the fool during these times.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I want to add, Francisco, a heads up. We have a Rising Festival come up. It's a second edition of Rising. Different wellness presenters, different modalities, elders, you know, people from our generation. So really wonderful event, 25th through the 27th of September. Okay, so it's just on synergy.yoga. And next weekend we have another Nairobi native, Tara, is coming to present. And so Tara's doing Yang Sheng, the Taoist philosophy of self-care. She's an acupuncturist working here in, she was trained in UK and working in Nairobi, does amazing work. And she does work as well, specializing on fertility, acupuncture for fertility, which is really interesting. And just wonderful person, very knowledgeable about traditional Chinese medicine, and passionate about it. So join us next Sunday if you're available, same time. That's 8 p.m. our time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard or Eastern Direct Time. Deepest gratitude for everyone. Before we check out, if we can just take a deep breath, even just to take in all this beautiful sharing and information. So let's lengthen out the spine, relax the shoulders, close the eyes for a moment, and soften the belly. And let's take a couple of deep breaths into our abdomen. Thank you all so much for joining us. Beautiful presentation, family. So we will hopefully see you. Come check us out if you need some practice this week. Some wonderful yoga, meditation classes, synergy movement. You can take drop-ins as well if you're not able to commit to you know, a longer, like a month-long pass. All right, so we'll stop the recording. Neha, beautiful blessings, my dear. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much. Yeah, really.
All right, thank you.